All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And of course, thanks for subscribing. We are back at it with the latest FSD update, version 14.1.4. Shout out to Tesla team for putting in that weekend work to make this happen. So we're going to test it out, see what it's hitting for. No new release notes, so we'll just take it out for a spin. We actually have to go to the city, so we'll take it out into the city, but more importantly, focus on the commute to the city, which is the more value add for the commuters that have to go in and out of New York City and have to go to that drive. So we're going to be focusing on that. So we'll jump into it right now. What I'm hoping for is better, improved brake stutter, brake pumping, and decisiveness, right? So it becomes a little bit indecisive in its movement that's communicated through the brake stutters. That's the best way I can try to describe it in terms of how it performs there. But we'll see how it does near pedestrians, specifically around pedestrians, but also sometimes on turns. So see these people start to creep out. I can kind of feel it starting to lean on that brake a little bit, where it really should be leaning on the regen with a brake as the last minute. Ooh, they decided to commit. Let me press the brake. Otherwise, it would just be a gradual slowdown to get to that point and then just resume if it needs to resume. Super cautious around pedestrians, as it should be. Good job here. Getting through here. Double parked car, gets around it, or tries to get around it. Now it signals to get around it. Good job. Make the left here. Pedestrians are walking. This is right near New York City, so people act the same way. That person decided to let it stop. Cyclist coming through. Now it goes. All good. I have the cameras up. If you guys prefer to see the map, I don't know how that's a value add for you, but if you prefer to see the map, let me know. Chime it in the comments. If enough of you respond, I'll just switch to the map, and you won't be able to see the cameras and see the proximity. I thought this was a better value add, but some people are used to seeing Model 3 and Model Y. They want to see this. I don't know why this helps the drive, but I guess I can leave it like this for now, maybe until we get to the tunnel, because I definitely want to see the tunnel and see what the proximity is in terms of lane centering in the tunnel, making sure it's not too close, doesn't hit the pylons, things like that. So it's about a 30-minute drive. I'll split this video into two. I'll do another video when we're actually in the city, traversing the city, but I just want to get to the city for this particular video, what that commute is like. Pedestrian walking with the right of way. Can't see the visualization because the camera's covering it, but it's all good. Good job turning. I would love it to be a little bit more centered in the lane versus cutting out the bike lane. Probably no big deal right now, but definitely just a best practice to try to be as centered in the lane. And again, this is where it comes to hyper localization of the models and making sure that it has data on how to traverse this area, which is very similar to New York, contains a lot of New Yorkers who commute back and forth, and has street markings similar to New York. Always stop, good to go. This road is closed to the left, can't go. Just realized that, turn the turn signal off and went. That's a great job. Navigation still wants it to go left, but the road is definitely closed. So good job for FSD. That's one of the highlights of version 14 is its awareness of what's happening visually and how that might conflict with the navigation and how it needs to find an alternate route. So now it's forcing the alternate reroute here. This is a one-way going this way, so it can't go that way. It has to get to the light and make another left and go that way. It's a great job. Can't say that version 13 didn't do that, but it doesn't do it as much and is not as certain. I think version 13 would have tried to turn down that road, had to see it was closed, and then have to figure out what was going on. This didn't even have to make the maneuver, use the pillar cams to see left, to see that the road was blocked off, and just decided to turn its turn signal off and go straight. So that's great. I hear a lot of people, who have upgraded to 14 saying they're regretful, they should have stayed with 13, so on and so forth. Whatever version you're on right now in terms of 14, it's only going to get better, and they're iterating so fast. They're like putting out releases every week to try to get this right. So I feel like they feel like they have found the answer, the solve, and now they're iterating quickly to refine it and make it better. So whatever advantages 13 had, they'll quickly be gone, and you'll have parity with 13, and then beyond surpassing 13 with the enhancements that 14 brings to bear. So don't feel remorse, don't feel regret. It's still very competent. There are some levels of comfort that are desired with the brake pumping, but other than that, it's been pretty good. And very reminiscent to 13, in my opinion. See that? A little bit of hesitation around these pedestrians, slowly shaking, stuttering, jittering, whatever you want to call it. That's what I'm talking about. That'll get ironed out. 13 was just like that as well when it first started, as was version 12. Very hesitant, very cautious. And again, it's just a result of them retraining the models. If there's a version 15, it'll probably do the same thing. To start, iron it out, then it'll get better. 13.2.9 was the culmination of all the previous 13 releases that they released, all the kinks ironed out. That's why it was so good. But it also had its shortcomings, especially turn on red, which this doesn't seem to do. So this seems to right off the bat eliminate that part of it, but also not necessarily regress, but show some other signs of just, again, retraining of the model. Good stop. So one thing I note here is that when it comes to a stop by itself, it comes to the full NHTSA stop, which is what it's supposed to do, despite whether you prefer to have it roll through or not, doing what it's supposed to do. But I do find that if it's behind another vehicle and it's already at the stop sign and the other vehicle's creeping through, it'll just go. It won't come to the full NHTSA stop at the limit line again after that vehicle was there, like we just witnessed with this car right here. So that's definitely cool. And that happens whether it's going straight or whether it's turning. You can still feel it thinking with his brake around the pedestrians, being extra cautious, especially in tight quarters like this. New York City, Boston, Philadelphia even, where you got a lot of pedestrians, a lot of tight quarters. It's definitely going to be something that you're going to see. Would definitely be interested to see how it reacts in India or Italy or places where there's tons and tons of pedestrians. It's even tighter, if it'll even be able to move. See that? It's an all-way stop, so it comes to the full stop. Now it goes. But if it was a one-way stop, it would have just went. I'm operating on standard right now. I'll bump up to hurry just to try to see if we can get us there faster. I'm going to leave Mad Max alone just because it does have a tendency to go a little bit more over the speed limit than I would prefer. Stopping for the pedestrian. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Now we have the right of way. We need to go. And we're good. Yeah, but Mad Max a little bit too fast for my taste. This will be my first go at New York, so I'm going to stick to hurry. I find that it doesn't increase or decrease the follow distance in close quarter situations, bumper to bumper traffic like I asked for. It does increase or decrease the follow distance. So a little hesitation here. I'm not going to give it the encouragement. I'm going to let it go. People beeping. Person was trying to cross. I guess that car was for that person. All good. But yeah, it's not a situation where it kind of drives, keeps the closer follow distance, only at the highway level. Harry gets the job done and stays a little bit closer to the speed limit, which I appreciate. Still an offset, but not as egregious as Mad Max can be at times. Didn't need to stop. We have the right of way, but it stopped for the pedestrian and then let the car go. So that's a good decision that it made. Safer decision in case that car tried to assume that we were slowing down for it and try to go at the same time as we tried to go as soon as the pedestrian cleared the intersection. So safe decision is always the best decision, especially if me as a supervisor or occupant am not paying attention in an unsupervised world. Joggers don't want to stop. Keep the momentum flowing. Go for it. All right, so it looks like we're clear for the tunnel, which is great. But it looks like we got a little bit of traffic once we get out and get into the little turning circle there. Full stop and a pedestrian. We're going nowhere fast. We're going nowhere fast. It's too dense here with a lot of stop signs, a lot of pedestrians, and it's early or early-ish. So I'll fast forward past all this. Good job trying to avoid these uneven roads. I'm not going to call them potholes, just uneven roads. It does a good job around that. So if it's big enough for it to notice, it will definitely try to evade it. If it's a little bit smaller, it'll just go through it like it normally does. But it's good that it attempts to do it. I did hear somebody say that it swerved over the double yellow to try to avoid it. I've not seen that happen. I think if it sees uneven road that it can't avoid, my experience has been that it will slow down to take it at the slow speed, which is what you're supposed to do, as opposed to trying to avoid it altogether. But again, everything is different. That's why when we talk about these builds going out, they have to go out to different places around the country, and even in Canada, right, to collect all the data. Right, so when you chime in and say, hey, it's not working well for me, where is that? Where are you? Are you in the same place as us? Are you in California? Are you somewhere else? Would love to hear that, because that's important. Because we do find that it does work differently in different areas. We know that it's going to work best in a Model Y or 3 in California, hands down. We know that it's not going to work so great in places that are not very popular, not very common, don't have a lot of Teslas in them, or that they have not paid attention to in terms of collecting data for, right? So remember the way that it's being trained on the fleet, not dynamically as people start to drive and it automatically updates, but in a process where they take the data that they get from different cars around the world or around the country and apply it to the models and train them off of that. So if there's a place where it's not a lot of Teslas, they're not going to get a lot of data from it, and therefore it might not perform as well. But if it's a place like California where Teslas are like Toyota Camrys, they're getting tons and tons of data that they can use to train the models on. And that's why it works the best. And shout out to all of the Uber and Lyft drivers of Model Ys in New York City, because obviously they're providing the data for New York City. That's why I can perform in New York City as well, based on some early clips we've seen. Oh, come on, here we go. All right, so we're here in the tunnel lanes now. Pretty good traffic right here on a weekend. Weekdays are a little bit more, dense. Lots of traffic, lots of waiting, lots of just standing around, sitting around. That's what makes it torturous. However, if you're using something like FSD to do that commute, that can take some of that pressure off of you. And obviously, unsupervised is the goal, is to do unsupervised FSD and take a nap or catch up on something, or if you're a lady, you're doing your makeup, you're going to work, you're doing your hair, you're going to work, whatever the case may be. You can do that and get that time back. Going into the tunnel, merging nicely. And we're in here. Pop the cameras back up, because again, I want to see the proximity here. Make sure the camera doesn't blow out the screen, hopefully. Wow, big pothole, can't avoid that one. Good distance so far. Excellent job lane centering here. We'll do the Lincoln Tunnel another time shortly, maybe the following weekend or in between in the week, during the week. I'll try to get that tunnel as well as the George Washington Bridge. Try to hit all the main entry points. And see how it performs. So it's a great use case because people in New York tend to live outside of New York nowadays, especially because the prices are so high. So they'll come to places like New Jersey, Connecticut, etc., and they will commute back and forth on a daily basis. So this becomes super valuable because, one, you need a car in those places, right, to live in those places because they're more suburban. But also the value of that car to getting you to and from the city is great. If you live in the city, probably don't. if you if you live in the city, you probably don't need to have a car because parking is so expensive. But you could definitely, Robotaxi I think would be good, rather than owning your own car and trying to have it, manage parking on its own. It'd be better off for you to leverage a Robotaxi network that way you can just hail a car whenever needed. And if they're in abundance, as they should, over time, you'll be able to get one anytime. I know some people may talk about or think about, I know a friend of mine who doesn't live in the city, but he used to. He was talking about renting his parking spot out in a scenario where someone could rent the parking spot out and he'd pay for it, but they'd rent it and make some money off it that way. So you could technically have a car that's available to you, but then it'd have to go back to that spot every time it drops you off somewhere. So I don't think that's ideal, especially if you go further away from it. The time it would take to get to that spot in traffic and then get back to you is not ideal, versus having a Robotaxi network, which would be available all the time. You'll get the nearest one to you. But I think the value here in New York is going to be that overwatch mode where it can just kind of spin the block until you're ready to go, double park somewhere until someone tells it to move, that type of thing, where it stays nearby, accessible, but just doesn't park because, it's too expensive or they can't do it. And there's no worry about idling because it's an electric car, and there's no concern about running the battery down because as it sits, it's not really draining the battery that much. It's only when it's driving that it's going to consume battery like that. So piece of cake getting in here through the tunnel, which is great. No traffic, so that's great. Nice and easy, which is what I like. And now it's just about getting to the regular traffic of New York City to get to our destination. Again, I'll just toggle back. Again, this is what the map looks like. I don't know the value of seeing it all the time. The map is also right here. That should be visible. But you guys let me know in the comments. I'll do what the people want. Comes to a red light. You saw it putting the turn signal on, indicating that it wants to go this way. There is no turn this way. If you see the sign over there, you can't turn this way. So it's not an option. So putting the turn signal on is a little bit unnecessary. We're just going to go straight, and then we're going to bear to the left. That's a scenario that I see that, again, FSD is doing, where it's putting its turn signal on a lot on version 14 for a lot of different things, which technically may be accurate, but it could also be confusing to some people, because right in this lane, because we know we can go straight, putting a turn signal on may mean you want to change lanes. So this person might be wary of that and start to brake in order to let that happen. So those are scenarios that I'm talking about, where it does it a little bit too much in scenarios where it doesn't have to. If this was the ability to turn and you had the option to go both ways, then you put the turn signal on to indicate which way you want to go. I'm okay with that. But we'll see what happens over time. Now we're good to go. Little hesitation, little herky-jerky. You can see it in the path planner where it starts to blip in and out. That's also representative of it putting on the brake, accelerating, brake, pumping, things like that. So pay attention to that if you can see it. Obviously, you'll probably see it a little bit better on a 3.0Y with the visualization on the screen. Would love for them to add that to Model S and X as an option. Let me stop here. So if you guys can see a little bit right here, and if you can see one right there, there are these little speed bumps that they put in these intersections. And I think the goal is to try to avoid them, or to stay within them and not go over them. But I'm interested to see how the car is going to take it. Is it going to try to go between them, or is it going to try to go over them? It doesn't seem to pose any harm, but just interested to see, again, if it's a localized model or any type of localized data that it's gotten, how it's going to proceed. It's like it's going to go straight through it and go even wider. Okay, let's see. No real shot to go from this direction right now. Waiting for the cars to pass. Pedestrians galore crossing the street to the left. And it's got to get out there now. It's got to start to get out there a little bit more, just to assert itself for the turn. And I feel like it's going to run over the little speed bump when it sees an opening, or when the light changes, basically. That seems to be the only way it's going to be able to turn. The light changes and we turn left. Okay, there we go. And we went over it. Boom. Doesn't hurt the car. I'm not mad at it, but I'm interested if there's supposed to be a direction that you go where you don't hit it. Pedestrian door open. They no longer visualize the doors opening anymore. That's also something to note. Little hesitation for that car. There is a police officer way back there making us, well, not way back there, right behind me. Maybe he's coming for me. Hopefully he's not. He's back there. Nice smooth slowdown for pedestrian. Little herky-jerky once it got to the intersection. Okay, now he's on me. Let's see what happens. Pedestrian stepping up. Car is not reacting as of yet with the flashing lights. Did have a turn signal on for some odd reason. Now it has the right turn signal on, which is the direction we need to go. Police officers' lights are there. Nice Lotus. So I don't see the microphone recording indicator on. If you can even see the active attention monitoring icon, which is over here, which should not be for Model S and X because it's hard to see. But I guess it would be listening versus paying attention to the lights. Unsure. So it looks like it's ignoring pedestrian here. Police officer just turning without indicator. A little hesitation. Oh, I'm going to disengage here because this police officer is trying to go somewhere. I don't want to impede his progress. He did not respond to emergency vehicle. He's obviously trying to get somewhere. He doesn't have his sirens on, but he has his lights on. Did use his horn or indicator and is trying to maneuver through traffic. So maybe that was unwarranted, but I'd rather be safe than sorry because the car was getting ready to definitely cut him off. So maybe it's bad on him, bad on me, I don't know. But again, just trying to be safer than sorry. Good job slipping the gap here, getting in before this car. Hard stop. Good job. Yellow light. So I don't want to count. I'm going to count it, but I don't want to count it technically, just because it was doing nothing wrong. And again, that officer didn't have the sirens on. He wasn't like ready in an active situation, but he seemed as though he was with his lights on. So just didn't want to cut him off, cause a problem, cause him or her to get agitated and start problems. So disengagement, I'll take it. But again, I don't really want to count it towards the competency of the drive. You would never have seen that if I didn't have the cameras up, by the way, as well. If I just had the map, you probably would never seen that. So far, so good. New York City, nothing special, nothing to write home about. It has the data. It's getting the data. And it's reacting accordingly. It's driving accordingly, nice and smooth. Many times we've been here. Many times other Tesla owners have been here. And again, the fleet of, there he goes again. 3NY owners traversing the city doing rideshare. So the data's there. I wouldn't say it's conquered New York City. I'd say it's very competent in New York City. There are certain edge cases and scenarios where it's not ready for. I'm sure it's not ready for. Specifically, some of the construction detours that it has to deal with. Very sporadic, very random, but they're there, and it has to deal with it. And then again, the assertiveness on the bumper to bumper, I'm sure it's not there as well because it's not there under normal circumstances. There goes a car service. We're going around the car service there, see if we can drive better, as good as you at one day, and at one point. Really trying to get around all the traffic it can in hurry mode, which is great. Around the buses, around the slow cars, around the double park cars, which is great. Assertively trying to get through here. 2 more lights on the right, we're at our destination. See what it tries to do in terms of destination options. Probably no parking, but maybe some double parking. Put the hazards on, that would be great. It's probably not gonna put the hazards on, but at least it can try to get in there. Good job, cyclist coming. Good job creeping in there. Good job, nice job. Great work. Tight street, no parking whatsoever. Don't have any options for parking. So I'm curious what it decides to do. It's going to try to park here. Really can't park here, but it's going to attempt to. But the cyclist is there, so it decides against it. If it can pull up over here, it can double park over here really quickly. Good job. Yeah, do that. Good work. Nice. Excellent job. Excellent job all around. Definitely liked the job it did. Knew what it just decided to do. No real issues other than the same issues. Nothing majorly different over 1.3. The notable thing is just maybe a little bit less braking, but the braking is still an issue here, which again is an indicator of indecisiveness or overly cautiousness, whatever you want to call it, but definitely jarring in that regard. One intervention in terms of a disengagement with the police officer, but I think that was more the police officer's fault than the car's fault, so I'm not really going to count that. Solid Uber Black, maybe bordering on high Uber Black for this particular drive. Got us from one point to the next, no issue, no problem. No real traffic either. We're going to continue the journey after this. We'll do that in another video, and then we'll head back and go the opposite way and get back back from New York City to New Jersey. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, and until the next time, enjoy your day, enjoy your Tesla.